Have you ever looked at your grown children, those same little ones you once carried on your hip or drove to soccer practice, and suddenly realized that the way they speak to you or treat you has changed, and not always for the better? Maybe it's a small comment here, a little jab there, a favor that somehow turned into an expectation. And because we love them, because they're our children, we let it slide. Again, and again, and again. But here's a truth many of us learn later than we should. Love without boundaries can quietly become a form of self-neglect. I want you to think about this. You've spent your life giving, supporting, guiding, and sacrificing. You've poured your heart, time, and often your savings into raising your children. So why is it that, now that you're older and possibly retired, you feel like you're walking on eggshells? Like saying no might push them away? Like you're being difficult for wanting peace, space, or even just basic respect? This conversation may be a little uncomfortable, but it's important. Because no matter how old we are, we deserve to be treated with dignity, kindness, and fairness, especially by the very people we raised. So today, we're going to talk about 9 things you should never allow from your children, even if they're well into adulthood. Not because we want conflict, but because we want healthier, more honest, and more respectful relationships. This is not about pushing them away. It's about pulling yourself back into the center of your own life. And that starts with one simple but powerful word: boundaries. Let's begin with one of the most common issues that often hides in plain sight: disrespect. It doesn't always show up with yelling or cruel words. Sometimes it's as subtle as an eye roll at the dinner table, a sarcastic comment about how outdated your views are, interrupting you mid-sentence because they assume you don't know what you're talking about, or dismissing your advice with a laugh because things are different now, Mom. These might seem like small things, but they carry weight. And when it happens again and again, it chips away at your confidence, your joy in family gatherings, your sense of being heard. Imagine this. You're sitting around the table with your family, sharing a story about how things used to be, maybe a story about your first job or how you met your spouse, and your son, now in his mid-30s, smirks and says, "Dad, no one does that anymore. That's from the dinosaur days." The others laugh awkwardly. And you? You smile, but deep down, you feel a quiet sting of humiliation. That story suddenly feels small. You suddenly feel small. Here's the thing. It's okay to expect respect. You're not being too sensitive. You're not being demanding. You are simply asking to be treated the way any adult deserves to be treated, with courtesy and consideration. And yes, that includes from your children. So what can you do? Start by speaking privately, not during the heat of a family gathering, but calmly, in a moment of quiet. Use I statements. Say something like, "I feel hurt when my stories are laughed at or dismissed. It makes me feel like my experiences don't matter." Be specific. Call out the behavior, not the person. And if it continues, let them know you may step away from certain conversations or visits until the tone becomes more respectful. Because mutual respect isn't a gift, it's a foundation. And if we don't protect it, we risk losing the very connection we're trying to preserve. Now, let's talk about something that gets even trickier: money. You've probably heard phrases like, "just this once," "I promise it's the last time," or "you're the only one who understands." Maybe you've even handed over your credit card or written checks to help pay their rent, cover car repairs, or get them out of yet another bind. It starts with love. It always does. But over time, something shifts. Instead of being support, it becomes expectation. And before you know it, your financial peace is sacrificed for their comfort. Now, don't get me wrong, helping our children from time to time is natural. It's a part of parenting that never really ends. But when that help turns into chronic dependence, when your adult child is still leaning on your income well into their 30s or 40s, it's not just their future at risk, it's yours too. Picture your retirement like a garden. Every deposit you made, Every careful decision, every dollar saved, that's you planting seeds. You planned for this. Maybe not luxury, but at least comfort. Now imagine someone walking into your garden and pulling out your plants, one by one, each time they say, "Just this once." And yet the garden never gets to bloom. Studies show that over 75% of parents help their adult children financially. Many even do it at the cost of their own needs, postponing travel, delaying medical procedures, or putting off long-awaited plans. Why? Because saying no feels heartless. Because guilt whispers in your ear. But let me ask you this. How will they learn to stand on their own if you never stop carrying them? Helping them isn't always about money. Sometimes it's about helping them help themselves. Maybe instead of covering their next bill, you guide them in creating a budget. Or help them connect with a job recruiter. Or even suggest they talk with a financial counselor. And if you're already giving, maybe it's time to talk about scaling back, gradually, gently, but firmly. You can also consider setting boundaries like this. I can help with a security deposit if you enroll in a course or job program. Or, I'll match what you save for your car repairs, but I won't cover the full amount anymore. The goal isn't to punish, it's to empower. Because self-respect, like any muscle, only grows when it's used. And let's not forget, your financial independence matters. It's not selfish to protect what you've built. In fact, it's one of the most loving things you can do. It allows you to remain strong, stable, and even generous, on your own terms. Now, once we begin placing those boundaries, something else often shows up. The unexpected knock at the door. The last-minute calls. The quiet invasion of your time and space. Have you ever just sat down with your cup of tea, ready to finally enjoy that new book or your favorite TV show, and suddenly the phone rings? It's your daughter. She needs you to watch the kids. Again. Or your son drops by unannounced, expecting dinner, laundry, and your full attention, like it's still 1995. We'll get to that in just a moment. We were just talking about those unexpected visits and last-minute calls. You know the ones where your plans suddenly get brushed aside because your adult child needs a favor. Again, maybe it's watching the grandkids for the third weekend in a row, or maybe they show up at your door with laundry and a hungry stomach, assuming you'll drop everything like the old days. Don't get me wrong, time with family is precious. And saying yes can feel good, especially when it gives us a sense of purpose. But here's the catch. When your free time becomes their backup plan, when your home becomes the revolving door for their convenience, you start to disappear from your own life. And you deserve more than that. You deserve rest, joy, and room to rediscover who you are outside of being mom or dad. Many of us spent decades waking up early, driving to practices, making meals, planning birthdays, paying bills, for everyone else. But at some point that giving has to make room for receiving, for slowing down, for saying, you know what, I need time for me too. So what do we do when the love we give starts to come at the cost of our freedom? Start by setting expectations. Instead of always being available, talk with your children about scheduling in advance. Let them know you love seeing them, but spontaneous visits or late-night babysitting requests just don't work anymore. Try saying something like, I'd love to spend time with the kids this weekend, but I need a few days' notice to plan around my own schedule. That's not selfish. It's responsible. You can also be honest about your energy. As we get older, it's natural to need more time to rest. It's okay to say, I can help for a few hours, but I won't be able to do the full day. The people who love you will understand. And if they don't right away, they'll learn. Because boundaries teach others how to treat us. And here's something I hope you really hear. You don't need to justify your no. No is a full sentence. You don't owe long explanations. Just honesty, spoken with kindness and love. Now, there's something else that often slips into the picture once we start setting boundaries, and that's emotional manipulation. Sometimes it shows up as guilt. Sometimes it's subtle pressure. Sometimes it's just a well-timed sigh or a dramatic, "Well, I guess I'll figure it out on my own." Sound familiar? Let's say you tell your daughter you won't be able to babysit this week because you're going out with friends, something for yourself, something rare. And she replies, "I guess I'll have to cancel my job interview then. I thought you understood how important this was to me." Suddenly your joy turns into shame. That warm moment for yourself gets crushed under the weight of guilt. Or maybe your son says, "After everything I've been through, I thought you'd be more supportive, just because you said no to loaning him more money." These words can be soft weapons, and they hurt. But the most painful part? The people using them usually don't even realize they're doing it. They've just learned that pressing certain emotional buttons works. They know which phrases make you cave. And while it may come from a place of stress or desperation, it's still a form of manipulation. The solution isn't cutting ties. It's changing the pattern. When you feel that emotional weight rising, pause. You don't have to respond right away. Say, "Let me think about that and get back to you." That one sentence gives you space to breathe, process, and decide based on what's best for you, not what you're being pushed into. Also remind yourself, love is not obligation. You can love your children deeply and still have needs of your own. You can love them and still say no. Love and limits are not opposites, they're partners. Sometimes you may need to have a calm but firm conversation. "I notice that when I say no, you make me feel guilty. I love you, but I need to be able to make decisions without being pressured." It might be uncomfortable at first. It might even cause a little tension. But that's okay. Healthy relationships sometimes grow through hard conversations. Now let's talk about something that often pulls older parents into a cycle they didn't sign up for: being the referee in adult conflicts. You're sipping your morning coffee when the phone rings. It's your daughter Amanda, crying because her brother Michael hasn't spoken to her since Thanksgiving. Something about money, or an inheritance, or something their spouses said to each other. She wants your advice. But more than that, she wants you to take her side. An hour later, Michael calls. He's upset too. And now you're caught in the middle of a problem that isn't yours. Again. This might have started when they were kids. You were the peacemaker, the fixer. But they're not kids anymore. And you're not their therapist. When we constantly mediate our adult children's fights, we rob them of the chance to grow up emotionally. We enable their immaturity. And we place ourselves in a position that's exhausting, frustrating, and completely unfair. Instead of trying to resolve it, redirect it, ask, "Have you spoken to your sister about this directly?" Or say, "I love you both too much to take sides. I hope you'll work it out together." You can even make a policy, something like, "I don't get involved in conflicts between adults." If the pressure continues, it's okay to step back. If you continue asking me to intervene, I'll need to end this conversation. That's not cruelty. That's wisdom. That's emotional self-preservation. And here's something to remember. Staying out of their conflicts doesn't mean you love them less. It means you trust them more. You're saying, "I believe you can handle this. I believe you're capable." That's a powerful form of love. Now let me share one more dynamic that creeps in quietly, but once it's there, it lingers. It's when your home becomes a long-term storage unit. A graveyard of boxes, bikes, books, old trophies, and dusty furniture. It usually starts with one sentence. "Mom, can I leave this here for a little while? I'll pick it up soon." But somehow, soon turns into months. Then years. And suddenly the garage is full, the closets are stuffed, the spare bedroom looks like a thrift store, and you're navigating around their past while trying to live in your present. It might seem harmless at first. After all, it's just stuff. But that stuff takes up more than space. It takes up energy. It delays your plans. It limits your freedom to downsize, renovate, or simply reclaim your own home. And let's be honest, Your house is not a museum for their childhood. If you've reached this point, it's time for a loving cleanup. You can start by setting a deadline. You're welcome to keep your things here until June 1st. After that, I'll need to clear the space. Be firm, but gentle. Offer solutions, suggest storage facilities, or offer to help them sort and donate. And if the deadline passes and the boxes remain, follow through. Donate what's no longer useful. Keep a few sentimental things if you choose, but don't carry the weight of their indecision. Because letting go of their clutter isn't just about tidying up your home. It's about honoring your current life, your peace, your right to live in a space that reflects who you are now, not who they used to be. We've touched on a lot today, and if any of it hit close to home, please know this: you are not alone. These challenges are more common than most people admit. But the beautiful truth is, you still have the power to reshape your relationships. You can speak up. Set limits. Reclaim your time, your space, your energy. Not out of anger, but out of self-respect. Let's keep going. Sometimes what hurts most isn't what your children say. It's what they don't say. What they don't do. Like when you're going through a difficult time and they're nowhere to be found. Maybe you've been recovering from surgery, or dealing with a loss, or just needed someone to help carry groceries into the house. You don't expect them to drop everything. But you did expect a call, a visit, some acknowledgement that your needs matter too. And when that doesn't come, it cuts deep. Many of us spent our lives being the reliable one, the caregiver, the constant. So it can be a shocking experience, this moment when you realize the roles have shifted, and yet the support hasn't come full circle. You don't want to beg. You don't want to be a burden. But you also don't want to feel invisible. This isn't about demanding attention. It's about recognizing that love includes showing up, especially during the hard times. So how do you navigate this when you feel neglected by your adult children? Start by being honest, with yourself and with them. Instead of vague hints or quiet disappointment, try clear communication. I have a doctor's appointment next week that I'm nervous about, and it would mean a lot if someone could come with me. That's not neediness. That's vulnerability paired with clarity. And sometimes, that's what it takes to break through their busy schedules and make your needs visible. Also, be willing to distinguish between preferences and real needs. Wanting a weekly call is different from needing help after a fall. And yes, your preferences matter, but when it comes to essential care and emotional presence, that's not asking too much. That's the bare minimum of a loving relationship. But if the pattern of absence continues, it's okay to make adjustments. You might need to invest more of your emotional energy in people who are there, friends, neighbors, community members, rather than trying to force something out of those who consistently disappoint you. This isn't abandonment. It's realignment. And that leads to a powerful question. Who are the people you can truly count on? When the answer is clear, life feels lighter. When it's not, it's time to reshape your support circle. Not out of anger, but out of wisdom. Now here's another behavior that's often disguised as concern, but can leave you feeling like a child in your own life. Constant criticism from your adult children. You mention wanting to downsize and move to a cozier place near the coast. They immediately object. That house has been in the family for decades. You can't just sell it. You suggest taking a trip with a new friend you've grown fond of. They raise their eyebrows. Are you sure this isn't a little fast after Dad passed? You mention taking a dance class or learning to paint or even trying online dating, and suddenly you're met with judgment, suspicion, or condescension. It's subtle, but the message is clear. You're too old to decide for yourself. And that is simply not true. You've lived a full life. You've earned your independence, not just legally, but emotionally, spiritually, financially. You don't need approval for your choices. You deserve the same autonomy and respect you gave them when they wanted to move across the country, or change careers, or get married young, or pursue something risky. So when criticism comes masked as concern, try this. Listen once. Then respond firmly. I appreciate your opinion, but I've thought this through, and I'm happy with my decision. If they persist, you don't need to keep defending yourself. You are allowed to live a life that feels good to you, not just one that fits their idea of safe or respectable. Also remember, sometimes this kind of criticism says more about them than it does about you. It might reflect their own fears of aging, of change, of losing their place in your life. They may not even realize they're projecting, but that doesn't mean you have to accept it. You can choose to keep certain decisions private. You don't have to share every plan, every relationship, every financial move. Not because you're hiding, but because you're protecting your peace. That's your right. Now, all of this brings us to one of the most delicate issues of all. It's something that millions of older adults face, yet very few talk about openly: the unspoken expectation that you will always be the caregiver, but never the one cared for. It begins quietly. Can you watch the baby while I go back to work? We need help with after-school pickup. Could you move closer so you can help more? At first, it might feel good to be needed. But over time, the hours add up. The requests increase. And suddenly, your retirement, this time you've waited decades for, starts to look a lot like full-time parenting. Again. And when you mention your own needs, maybe wanting to plan for future care or talk about what happens if your health changes, you're brushed off. You're fine. Don't worry about that now. Or worse, silence. This is what's called a one-way care contract. You give. You sacrifice. You show up. But when it's time to talk about your future, the topic gets changed or avoided completely. That is not fair. And it's not sustainable. You have every right to set limits. If you enjoy helping with the grandchildren a few afternoons a week, wonderful. But if it's become daily or if it's expected without discussion, it's time to say, I need to reclaim some of this time for myself. You don't owe 40 hours a week of unpaid labor just because you're retired. Your time has value, even if you're not clocking into a job. And when it comes to your own care, have that conversation now. Don't wait for a crisis. Sit down and say, I'd like to make a plan in case I need help down the road. Talk about finances, medical decisions, housing options. It might be uncomfortable, but it's essential. And if your children truly care about you, they'll make space for that discussion. Also consider putting things in writing. Maybe a simple agreement about how often you'll help with childcare, or outlining your wishes for your later years. Clarity now prevents chaos later. And if your children seem unwilling or unable to be there for you in the ways you may need, that doesn't mean you're doomed. It means you start building a plan that includes friends, community, services, and other resources. Because one of the kindest things you can do for yourself and for them is prepare. Let's be clear, this isn't about creating distance or cutting people off. It's about balance. It's about recognizing that you are still the author of your own life, even if some chapters are harder to write. So here we are. 9 behaviors, 9 boundaries, and 1 beautiful truth. You are worthy of respect, love, and care, not because of what you do for others, but simply because of who you are. Let's take a breath together and remember what we've talked about. You don't have to accept disrespect just to keep the peace. You don't have to bankrupt your retirement to rescue someone who won't rescue themselves. You don't have to give every ounce of your energy, your space, your time. You don't have to be manipulated, guilted, or criticized. And you don't have to carry the full weight of family drama, or endless boxes, or everyone else's needs. You are not a storage unit. You are not a referee. You are not an unpaid nanny. You are a whole person, with dreams and dignity, with needs and wisdom, with a life that still matters, very much. And if you take nothing else away from this video, please take this. It is never too late to speak up for yourself, to set a boundary, to rediscover your joy, to live life on your own terms. You've spent a lifetime caring for others. Now it's time to care for you. If this message spoke to your heart, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Share what resonated most. Or simply write, "I choose dignity," so I know you're with me on this journey. And if you'd like more videos like this, gentle, honest, empowering messages for your season of life, be sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to click the bell so you don't miss what's coming next. You are not alone. You are not forgotten. And you are far from done. Here's to living your truth, boldly, peacefully, and unapologetically. We'll talk again soon. Until then, take care of yourself. You're worth it.